Right. So let's see, guys. What did we see last time? Tell me all about it. Diego, go ahead. What did we see? Diego?
Christian.
Can you hear me, Professor?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, we can
Okay,
hear you.
perfect. So last class, we saw, was it SRC? Yes. Yes, was the self reference criterion. Yes, we saw that.
Okay, wonderful. And then we also saw some images talking about the value of a person, right?
Yeah.
What does it consist in?
Yeah,
And
consist
this
on how you make other fields, right?
That is correct. And here we are. Okay, here it is. So I have one more slide for you for that. And why don't you just read it? Go ahead.
No matter how educated, talented, rich, or cool you believe you are, how you treat people tells all. Integrity is everything.
So that's just to conclude what we were talking about with the value of a person, right? With the value of a person. How you treat people tells all, no? Okay, great, guys. So let's carry on and let's see the following now. Types of customs, okay? Types of customs. This is highly interesting. And I usually say that whenever I go to another country, I usually ask or research immediately. What can I do in this particular culture? What can I not do now? Since I've been traveling an awful lot in my life, but basically to Latin America, to different countries, I do not do this research really because they are all pretty similar, right? So Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, and all those countries, they are similar. There are, of course, differences, but it's not something that I really research. But if I had to go to Canada, and the US is also very similar to Western Europe, so I'm not worried about that either really much. But when it comes to there are differences, right? But not that tragical. But where I would really worry it would be if I go to an Asian country or a Mid-Eastern country, I will definitely check that out because those cultures are so hugely different, right? So I have to know what can I do and what can I not do. Basically, what do I have to do? So I'm gonna give you 3 different types of customs that exist in every and each country, okay? So let's see. The first ones are customs that we have to accept and obey with, whether we like it or not, okay? So one thing comes to mind. Can anybody give me an example of a custom of a particular culture or country that you know of and it's very famous, that you know of that you have to definitely comply with? Anybody? Giselle, yeah. We just heard that, right? About 15 minutes ago. Go ahead, tell us anyways.
Okay. In Japan, you need to take off your shoes at the entrance.
That would be correct. And I also mentioned in the Global Experience course right now that it's actually a smart idea because when you think about where we are going, and Western cultures don't do that, right? Neither in Europe nor in Latin America have I never seen that anybody says, hey, take off your shoes. Every now and then you get that, but I'm not even worried about it because I would agree with that custom, right? Because we are out on the streets all day long. Who knows what we stepped on, and then we bring all this dirt inside the house, right? So that's not a smart thing. So I believe the Japanese are correct in that. Leave the shoes at the entrance and walk around in your socks. So that's a whole different story altogether. And they keep the carpets clean, they keep the floor of the house clean, and that's a good idea, right? So I did investigate that. I did confirm these things. You know, in the Arkansas State University, we have Japanese students. And I asked every and each of them over the 2 years and a half I've been working with this university. I have asked them if that is really still going on. and they all say yes, but, and here's the thing, maybe things are changing in Japan as well. They definitely do it within the Japanese community. But if they invite somebody who is not Japanese, they will be tolerant in a sense that they will not force you to take shoes off. Okay, they will say, hey, why don't you take the shoes? They will recommend it or may not even touch the subject, right? But that's what the Japanese guys have told me that we have had in this university. So they are young, so maybe the generation, the new generation, the younger ones are more flexible about it. But I don't know. I would definitely find out what can I do, what can I not do, what do I have to do, right? And if they tell me, hey, in Japan, when you enter a house, you have to take your shoes off, I will take them off and I will have no problem with that, okay? And I would recommend that anybody else doesn't do that either. Okay, so these we have to investigate. Every particular culture has this. In the Middle East, I'm sure there are customs that we are not aware of, and there will be definitely some customs that we have to accept, right? Another example I could give you of an imperative custom would be, and I think I've mentioned that. Has anybody gone to a Jewish wedding? Anybody? No? Hey, Giselle, nobody has the camera on. Guess what we're gonna do? We can do that too, right? We can do that too. So let's turn it off. So it's gonna be more boring, right? It's gonna be more boring. They love to have the cameras off, so fine by me. And so when you go to a Jewish wedding, I went to my first one some 46 years ago or something. And what they asked me to do is, once I got to the synagogue, I was there with my wife. I got to the synagogue, and my friends were waiting out there. They were Jewish from the university. And the first thing they did is they put this thing on me that I don't know what it's called, okay? So that's an immediate thing. And I had to put it on, and I couldn't have cared less. It's like, I think I mentioned that, no? That I was not offended by it. I was not feeling that I was resigning my religion now, because I'm having this thing on for an hour, right, while the wedding lasts. I was not offended. I had no problem with that. And I knew that if I wanted to go into a synagogue, that's what they say, well, then I'll do it, right? And but the second thing that was really strange to me was that they separate women and men. So they told me, listen, Herbert, you have got to go to the left and your wife has got to go to the right. And so we walked in there, and I said, oh, strange, because in a Catholic wedding, we don't do that. We usually go in there together and sit there together in the church. But in a synagogue, it's different. So once you walk in there, they didn't have to tell me really. Once you walk into a synagogue in a wedding, you see all men sitting on the left and all women sitting on the right. So there is not really much. I wouldn't have said to my wife, hey, check it out, they split up. But we are not going to do that. Let's sit down together. No, it was pretty obvious that this is not the way they do things, right? So I went to the left, she went to the right. Highly interesting, because all the men on the left side, I was listening to them. They didn't know that I wasn't a Jew. I had this thing on, remember? But I didn't want to talk to anybody, because I figured, man, these people don't know me, right? My friends know me, but these people don't know me. And if they hear me talk, if they start talking to me and I start having this heavy German accent, they are going to probably be not too happy to have me there, right? So I was kind of worried. I said, I better shut up. I don't mention anything. I just don't talk. And nobody approached me, so no big deal. And they were all talking about business on the left side during the wedding. We don't do that in a Catholic wedding, right? We're all quiet and all listening to the priest and so on and so forth. But the wedding was going on, and these people were talking about business all over the place. And my wife then told me, I can't believe what I just heard, because she was sitting on the right side, and she heard all these things about personal stuff. The women were talking about personal stuff, about the ugly dress that Rachel was having on, and I mean, you know, all that kind of silly things. And I said, well, guess what? I mean, all the men were talking about business, about the uncle in Chicago and the other one in Miami and all that. So we were surprised, right? We were surprised. But those were things that I had to do. These are imperative. You want to be in a Jewish wedding, for a man, you have to put this thing on, whether you like it or not. But I couldn't care less. And you have to sit on the left, but not with your woman. Okay. So, well, no problem with that either. Okay. So I do that. Now, I believe that if I went to a Middle East thing, a Middle East a trip, or an Asian trip, Far East Asia, who knows what kind of customs they have, and they put on you, they impose on you. Well, I will most probably accept all of them because that's the way they are. And I would have to think like that. And I'm sure they're not going to ask me for anything immoral to do, right? And if that came to light, that if they asked me to do something really immoral, well, then I would have to say something like, look, no disrespect, but I'm not feeling comfortable with that, right? And well, in that case, I lose the business deal. I don't care, right? If it's immoral, I don't do it. So those would be the imperative ones. So you have to check them out, okay? Now let's go to the next ones, the exclusive customs. Now, there I will tell you a little story about that, okay? I will tell you a little story about that. Exclusive customs are customs that are only reserved for the people of that particular culture, which means that you as a foreigner are not supposed to participate, whatever they are doing. You have to find these things out, okay? Which ones are exclusive? Which ones can I not talk about or criticize or anything, right? Especially not participate in. And this brings me to a movie I saw many years ago, and I really should look it up. Who knows where I can have it, and edit that particular scene. But I give you an idea, okay? I give you an idea. And by the way, I corroborated that with the Japanese students also, all right? So here's the thing, here's the drama of the movie. And it was a very famous American movie actor, right? I don't remember his name. Who was, I don't remember, no, very famous. So anyways, it was about this cop, an American cop, okay? And he had lived in Japan for many years, and then he retired and he went back to the States and was retired. But when he lived in Japan, he had been a friend of another cop, but a Japanese cop. Okay, so those two cops, they became friends during the years that this American guy was over there. So here's the drama. So this Japanese guy calls up the American guy in the States and says, hey, listen, I need you to do me a favor. Come to Japan because I have a problem, right? So since they were friends, the American travels to Japan again and says, so what's your problem? And a Japanese cop had a brother, a Japanese brother, a politician, a very important politician. And that brother, that politician, had a son, and that son was going the wrong way. Okay, it was going the wrong road. So he was mixed up with a complicated crowd. Let's put it this way. And so the Japanese cop was worried because he knew, as a Japanese cop with the honor system they have over there, he knew that his brother's son was a criminal. He was in the, what's that criminal gang called in Japan? Shakura or Shakusa or something like that, right? So this guy was in that. So as a cop, you have to do something about that, right? But it was his brother's son. So what happened here was, and I don't know if you know that, I'm sure some of you are going to freak out when you hear that. If in Japan, somebody offends another Japanese, okay? And this guy who offended the other guy wants to recover the friendship, there is a ritual going on. Then in front of each other, they pull out a handkerchief, put it on the table, and cut off their little finger, wrap the finger in the handkerchief, and turn over the handkerchief to the other person, like saying, look, I know I screwed up, I messed up, but I'm sorry, and here's the proof of how sorry I am. I cut off my little finger, right? And if the other guy accepts the finger, which is usually going to be the case, because I mean, you know, you don't want to, you understand that if the guy is willing to cut off his little finger, he wants the friendship back, right? So that's the custom now. But that's a Japanese thing, okay? And by the way, it's not a Japanese thing for all Japanese people. And this is why I corroborated with the Japanese students I've had over the years in the Arkansas State University. I said, is that really true, right? And they said, yes, it is, but it only works for organized crime situations. So it's not normal people that cut off their finger and, you know, do all that. No, it's only the ones that are in an organized.
Yeah, it's only within the Yakuza
Only
that
the
kind
Yakuza.
of custom is held. It's a sign of respect when you
That's
cut off your
correct.
finger. Yeah.
That's correct. Now, so don't worry about it. If you go to Japan and you offend somebody, you don't have to cut off your finger. It's only the Yakuza people do that, or the organized crime people do that. Okay. But here's the thing about the movie. And so they go and see the two of them, the two cops, they go and see the politician. And the Japanese cop tells his brother, look, you know, I'm uncomfortable with the situation. And his brother says, the politician says, look, this is where the honor code is, you know. And he says, I know what you have to do, which is arresting his son, right? I know what you have to do. The only thing I'm asking you is do not kill him. Okay. Well, when I think about now about other cultures, please do not take this personal now. I'm gonna take an example, another country. If that happened in Colombia, I suppose, or Venezuela, or I don't know, or whatever Latin American country, with the exception of Mexico, of course. If that happened in another Latin American country, if there are two brothers, one is a cop and the other one is a politician, and the politician's son is a crook or a criminal, the cop brother might not even want to arrest him, right? Maybe that's the way it goes in other countries. But in Japan, it's not going like that. So the Japanese cop had a job to do. But his brother, the politician, told him, I know what you have to do. So he accepts the cop situation. All I'm asking is do not kill him. Okay, so here's the story. This was the commitment. Guess what happened? They tried to arrest the guy. Situation got complicated. Long story short, they killed the guy. Okay, they killed the son. So now they go back to the politician, right? They go back to the politician, and I will never forget that scene because it really impressed me. Right? It really impressed me. It's a wonderful example for this particular subject. And so the two cops sit in front of the politician. The politician already knew that his son was killed, right? So they sit there and they start talking, and the Japanese cop puts out the handkerchief, which is part of the ritual, right? Puts out the handkerchief. And the politician sees that and says to his brother, don't do it. Do not do it. What was the politician probably saying? I know you feel bad, and I know you want to cut off your finger now, right? Well, basically, this was strange because one is the cop and the other one is a politician, so they were not from the Yakuza criminal gang, right? So they probably didn't have to do it. But so let's suppose they do it, no? And so the Japanese the cop has its handkerchief already on the table and does not carry on with the ritual. So they carry on talking, and suddenly the cop takes out a knife and cuts off his finger and turns it around, wraps it up, and turns it over to his brother. Now, here's the thing. The American cop who had lived in Japan for many years. He knew about that custom. He was sitting next to the Japanese cup. He observed the whole scene. He knew what he was gonna do. And he did not mention anything. He kept his mouth shut. I just want to, because he knew it was an exclusive thing, okay? You do not interfere there. I'm taking this into Mexican situations now. What would we have done? Let's suppose here's the cup. You know he's gonna cut off his finger, but the politician says, don't do it, don't do it. And then you see him still do something like that. What are we gonna do? We're gonna say something like, baboso, que ya te dijo que no lo hicieras, ya no sigas. Or no, we would have said something like that, right? That would have been disrespectful in the Japanese context, okay? So that's why I love the movie, because the American cop was sitting there, did not mention a word, he observed only, and kept his mouth shut, the way it was supposed to be. This was something between two Japanese guys, okay? So wonderful thing, wonderful movie, by the way, has much more drama behind it, but I'm not gonna get there. I wish I remembered the name of the movie. I wish I remember the name. It was a very good movie. But anyways, so these would be exclusive customs. We cannot, if you think about it, Mexico does not have many imperative customs, really not. We have laws, right? There are laws here that we have to obey, but it's not like customs that we have that they force on us. Mexicans don't force basically nothing on us, right? But when it comes to exclusive customs, there might be some. Can you figure out what kind of customs of your culture would be exclusive? Now think about it. Don't think about foreigners, right? Think about you being Mexicans, and within Mexico, there might be different microcultures, remember, and now you're dealing with one of them. And what kind of situations do you not see happening, or that you definitely don't want anybody to interfere with? Any ideas? Can you think of something? Nothing? So you're very flexible. You're very flexible and so on and so forth. Okay, no, I don't think so. But I can give you one. Since I have been very tolerant, flexible, and open-minded all my life, most of my life, basically, I have dealt with Jews and with Arabs and with Japanese and with all kinds of people, but especially Latins, right? But I have dealt in Mexico also with different people from social levels. So I've had the luck to mingle with high society, if you will, okay? I have had the luck. And I know how to move around. But I also did it the other way around. I have also been to houses of less fortunate people, being invited to events or weddings or quinceañeras of class C and D people. I've been to indigenous people's houses. And I did see something there that I considered not so Westerner. And it's basically the way a father might treat his daughter, right? In that particular culture. That when I saw things like that, how he would educate his daughter in certain things. And so when I see stuff like that, I was thinking that particular day, should I say something? You know, should I say something? Like say to the guy, hey, oh no, don't do that. You know, that's not the way it's being done. But I was probably, I don't know if I was smart enough or if I was scared enough, right? And I just kept my mouth shut. because I also believe that if I had told this guy, hey, listen, that's not the way you treated the other, or not, he would probably have told me something like the following: you stay out of this, right? You stay out of this. This is the way we do things. So this would be an exclusive thing, okay? This would be an exclusive custom only for those particular people of that particular culture, okay? Microculture. So we have to find those things out. But whenever you see something strange going on, just don't get involved, right? Especially, but you have to find out that. You have to either research it or ask people. And if you're in a situation like this, you know what to do. They might say, well, if they're gonna kill somebody, well, then you might say, hey, don't do that, right? Because that's a universal thing. But when it comes to different things, no matter how strange that might look to you, if they tell you, hey, if you see something like this, don't even think about mentioning anything, right? Well, now you know it's exclusive. Now you know it's exclusive, and if it happens, you better remember that they told you not to get mixed up with that, okay? And now the other customs would be, oh no, you cannot see. Man, I just made us something here. Oh, man. Did you see the image? Did you see the image? Yes? Arlene, did you see the image? You said? What did you see? Write it on chat. To me only. In that image, what did you see? The one that I jumped over. What exactly did you see? And write it only to me. Because I'm gonna, if you saw what, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. I have got to take that one out. Okay, but you saw it. Did anybody else see it? Eileen, what did you see? Write it to me. Giselle saw it. Giselle. Oh, but you saw it in another course, right? In the Global Experience one, right? And I told you about it, but you never saw it. You might not have seen it.
No, yeah, I saw it.
You
like,
did?
Just a little bit, yeah.
You did. Giselle, Eileen, Giselle, what did you see? Write it to me. Only to me, not to anybody else. What did you see? Because I'm gonna, if you saw what I'm afraid of, then I'm gonna take this out, this image out, because this should not be there. Eileen, you're not sending me anything. She's writing. She's writing. Wow. How much are you writing? How much did you see? Huh? I still don't get an image. I mean an image, an answer here. Oh, there it is. Oh my God. Okay. 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 Yeah. I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna take it out. You're never gonna see that one again, okay? Now here is a thing. I'm gonna tell you the story, but I'm not gonna show you the image. It's so I was at the Tec de Monterrey that happened. That image is of it's a commercial, okay, from a very famous company that we all know. And so one day I was in class, that must have been, I'm not kidding you, 20 years ago, okay, 20 years ago. And this student of mine comes, we didn't use computers, we used slides, you know, the acetatos, no? Láminas de acetatos. And she came to me and said, Herbert, have you seen this ad? And she was 20 or something, right? And I looked at the ad and I went like, and this was my reaction to that, which is stupid. I tried to cover her eyes so she wouldn't see the ad, which is stupid because she brought it, right? So she had seen it. But this was my paternal thing, right? Don't look at it. So what was it? It was from Benetton. And you know, Benetton is a very good company, very nice clothes, very good quality, and so on and so forth. So I have no problems with them at all. And they were always focused in their marketing and their advertising on social issues like AIDS or homosexuality or racism, stuff like that, always. So they were very progressive in that, in those issues. But in this particular image, that was a commercial, for crying out loud, in a magazine, right? There were, am I sharing? No, I'm not sharing, right? So I'm gonna count them real quickly, just for the heck of it. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows here and 8 rows here. So what does that tell you? So there was one image, and there were 48 male genitals, okay? 48 male. Well, I'm gonna stop sharing because I'm afraid that I'm gonna jump back to that one and then we see. But all kind of different sizes and colors, right? Because they were so tolerant with the racism thing. So the idea was basically good. The idea was good. But I was thinking, and that appeared apparently in a Mexican magazine, if Mexico was 20 years ago ready for an advertisement like that, right? In a magazine, no? I don't think so. And I kept the image, I scanned it, and finally put it on my materials for international marketing and global experience when it comes to culture, just to see how prepared are we to see stuff like that, right? And so now that I jumped over it and you saw it anyways, I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna take it out, which, by the way, just to make sure I'm not sharing anything, right? I'm gonna take it out right now. Well, actually, look, I did have a message for that. Watch out, ladies. Please close your eyes for a moment, right? But I'm gonna take those 2 out. I'm gonna just take them out. Hold on, this I gotta do, okay? I do not want this to be an issue again, because that scares the hell out of me. Because then you might say stuff like, hey, our teacher does this kind of, shows us this kind of thing, you know, and I don't want you to, okay, I'm already placing them somewhere else for a more, let's say, not more mature, but simply not students from a university, okay? So already saved that stuff, so I can go back to where we were. I'm happy I got rid of that now. Where am I? Where was I? Here we are. Here we are. So, okay, I'm gonna share now with ease. I'm relaxed now, okay? I don't have to worry about this anymore. I hope, Giselle, I hope you're not offended, right? By that. Were you offended by that? Giselle? Giselle, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Were you offended?
No?
Eileen, Giselle, were you offended? Okay, you know, because that was a mistake. I should have taken that off already. I already did. No, it's never going to happen again. Don't worry about it. Now, what do we see here? What do we see here, Carlos Rodrigo? What is this image here? Carlos?
The Coliseum,
The Coliseum, where is it?
Italy,
Where is it?
Italy.
In Rome, right, in Rome. And do you know what this left slide here, image here is about? I guess nobody knows that, right? There was a phrase many years ago, always actually, no, you can still hear it, where they say, in the Roman Empire, right? They would say, every road leads to Rome, right? Every road leads to Rome. And that particular image is a Roman road, right? This is a Roman road, so that's 2,000 years ago. And wherever you went, you would end up in Rome. That's how important Rome was, right? So what this means for me is the following. There will be customs that are optional, okay? Optional. What does that mean? that if they wanted to participate in a particular custom and you don't feel comfortable, you might reject it, okay? And nothing major will happen. If you're in a business deal, you will not lose a business deal because of that, because you're rejecting a particular custom. I remember one of them, I don't know if I already talked about, have you talked about the famous custom then? What do we call it? What do we call it? I don't remember now. What do we call that drink that is a tequila? That is a tequila shot mixed with tequila mixed with 7-Up or something like that. What do we
Paloma.
call? What?
Paloma.
No, and then you have to hit the tequila thing on the table several times, drink it like that, and then drink the 7-Up or the skirt or something. It's a famous concept, a famous word. So anyways, why am I mentioning this? Because you ladies might not have ever, what was it, a puppet, or what was it? I forgot about it. And I mentioned it about a week ago. Forgot it. So why is this famous, this particular thing? It's a custom. But usually guys, when they're out with girls, right, they would usually invite the girl, Muppet. This is what it was, a Muppet. A Muppet. And they say, échate un Muppet, no? And then the girl would do that because she would know. But what happens with the Muppet is that, and I don't know why, I have no idea why. I have drunk it on many occasions. And I can tell you this, I might have been drinking 7 tequilas and be, of course, slightly affected, right? But with 2 Muppets, I was basically under the table. I don't know why that was, right? But the Muppets were really, really effective in hitting you, no? So why am I mentioning this? Because a lot of guys usually invited the girls for a Muppet, and if she drank 1 or 2, she was basically incapable of defending herself or resisting any guy's advances, right? And so that was fun. But also, Mexicans love to do that with foreigners, right? Because then foreigners come to this country and this is what you need to know. I have never been to a country where they haven't had their own particular drink, right? The Russians have the vodka, and so by the way, so do the Polish, and the Germans have the Jägermeister, and so on and so forth, right? We Austrians have something called the Slivovitz. The Slivo. Have you ever drunk that? Slivovitz. Never. That's from Ciruela. That's a drink done from Ciruela, and that's very strong. We Austrians are used to that, but foreigners would not be used to that, right? And so foreigners are not used to tequila either, no? So every country has its own drink and killer drink, right? And so I don't know why Mexicans love to put this Muppet thing on foreigners. Might be, if I think about history, they might want to see foreigners under the table, right? Falling down and stuff, and that's funny for them. I don't want to get into that more deeply, no. But I do remember that every time, once I knew what the Muppet was all about and I had experienced it, I said, well, hell no, I'm not going to get into the Muppet thing anymore. And many times Mexican guys would say, hey, Herbert, have you ever had a Muppet? And I would say, yeah. Well, have another one. No, you know. And it's not because that, it's not, if I rejected it, they would not throw me out of the house and say, you're no longer our friend, right? No, it's okay then, no? Or if I was in a business deal and they offered me a Muppet, I would say no, and I wouldn't lose the business deal. So this kind of custom would be optional, all right? So I can or not accept it, whatever, no? So these are the things you should research when you go to another country or deal with another culture, okay? So remember, we talked about ethnocentrism. How about that? USA, we are #1. And this is about 30 years ago that I saw on a newspaper, in a newspaper. And they're still thinking about it like that, right? They still think about it like that. So ethnocentrism has been around for a long, long time. Okay, now let's go to culture alone. Culture alone. Don't Google it. What do you think a culture alone means? Anybody? What do you think it means? Giselle knows, right?
When you borrow a tradition from another country, I think like saying bye, for example. When we say bye, that's like not our culture. Like we would say adios, not bye. No?
Oh, okay, yeah. We adapt a lot of concepts from the English language. We are next to the States, right? So this gets mingled up. I remember in San Diego, man. In San Diego, I have to mention this. Why am I sharing? I gotta go to the chat. You know how what we call a parking lot, right? An estacionamiento. They call it parking instead of estacionamiento. The Mexicans in the northern part, close to the frontier, right? And then they would say something, púchale la puerta, no? O sea, stuff like that I've heard up there in the border in Tijuana and so on and so forth. But of course, these two languages get mixed up. No, there's no big surprise to that. Does anybody know what language they speak in Barcelona, Spain? Does anybody know?
Catalan.
Catalan, yeah. Have you learned how to speak Catalan, Michael? No? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I lived in Barcelona, right? I'm going to tell you something that you're never going to believe. But what I'm going to tell you happened in 2 occasions in 2 different countries with 2 different languages. And which should actually, or probably broke my paradigms, okay? So I was living in Barcelona and I knew they were Catalan. They spoke Catalan all the time. But with me, well, I didn't know how Catalan, so we spoke Spanish, right? And there was this one day when I was watching TV and there was the news on. And I heard the news for about 15 minutes. And suddenly, I looked at the news and they were talking in Catalan and understood the whole damn thing. So this is, and I don't speak Catalan. So what I'm trying to say here is that this is a mental barrier. This is a paradigm. I do not speak Catalan, therefore I will not understand Catalan, right? But I was listening to it without even noticing that they were speaking in Catalan. And I understood the whole damn news. And that surprised the hell out of me. And I remember, because there was kind of a mixture of French and Spanish, okay? There was a mixture of French and Spanish. And when I mentioned that to the Spaniards, to the Catalanes, I said, hey, you guys are so proud of your Catalan. I don't see that. I mean, it's weird, you know, it's French, it's a mixture of French and Spanish. Man, don't you ever say that to a Catalan. There goes an exclusive thing, okay? Do never say that to a Catalan. Catalan is my own language. And they say, what are you so angry about? You live close to France. Barcelona is close to France. And the French, they might have at the border some mixture with you guys too. There's no big deal. No, you cannot say that. That would go, there's an exclusive one. And the other one, the other occasion I was with my first wife, we were in Italy. And I do not speak Italian. And we were in Italy. And by then, I hardly spoke Spanish. That might have been 2 years after two years after living in Mexico. So I knew some Spanish. And I remember we were getting ready for breakfast. We were getting dressed, and I heard the TV. We had the TV on. There was the news on. And suddenly I turned around to my former wife and I said, guess what? I just listened for 10 minutes to the Italian news. They spoke Italian and I didn't even realize it and understood the whole damn news, right? So that really probably told me, don't get scared. Oh no, don't get scared. You might not know it, but if I said I don't speak Italian, well, then I hear it and I won't understand it, right? And just to make you laugh a little bit, there was I went to live in Cancun and I drove there with my car. And that was a 2-day trip from Mexico City. And I burned the ships in Mexico City, so I took everything with me and so on and so forth, and valuables in my car. So I was worried. I said, if I do that trip on my own, I might get marked or assaulted, right? So I told my best friend Hector, I said, Hector, are you busy? Because, you know, I need you to go with me to Cancun. No, I pay you the trip back by plane and so on and so forth, but I don't want to go alone. He said, sure, let's go. And so we did, but we did stop in Merida. I remember in Merida, we did stop and stayed there the night. And we were in the hotel and there was the news. And there was the news. And in some moment, there was a picture of the Pope, right? And I heard the news and I swear to God, I did not understand the goddamn thing because it was in Mayan, right? It was in Mayan. And I said, hey, listen, I can't believe you're listening to the news in Mayan, but I didn't understand anything. And he said to me, oh, you don't speak Mayan? I understood the whole damn thing. And I said, well, you speak Mayan? And he said, yeah. They're talking about the Pope. Well, because just the picture has shown up from the Pope. Yeah, they were talking about the Pope. So anyways, no, in Mayan, I did not get it, okay? I did not get that one. Okay, so let's carry on. A culture alone, as you already mentioned, is this is important now to understand, is something that we adapt. Well, let me tell you something, by the way, now that you mentioned the bye and the adios thing, do you know what I usually say? And all my life I have used this particular thing. And now that I think about it, never thought about it. Why do I do that? Shouldn't come as a surprise to me either. I always say ciao. I always say ciao. All my life I've said ciao. And now that you mention it, shouldn't surprise me at all because we have the border with Italy, right? We are not mixed up with them as such because I'm from the capital, Vienna, and there are Italians there. But I have gone to Italy a lot. And so the ciao thing must have stuck. The ciao thing must have stuck. So this is what I've been using all my life to say goodbye to anybody. Okay, ciao then. No? Interesting. Okay, so no, culture alone. When we adapt something, some custom or something from another country, and we adapt it, we use it, that's a culture alone. There might now be two types of culture alone. The culture alone is when we are aware that this is a foreign thing, but we still use it. Like here in Mexico, when we talk about Halloween, right? Halloween, now that's a US thing, right? That's a US custom, but we do it here in Mexico. We use it, we do it, but we are aware that it's not Mexican, right? We know it's from the States, but we still use it. So that's a Mexican, I'm sorry, that's a culture alone. But the interesting one is the one where we adapt something from a different culture and don't even realize that this is from another culture and actually make it our own culture. And now this is what any business people would love, any business executive or business owner would love to achieve. Culture alone, that another culture adapts your product or your service or your brand uses it and buys it all the time and even believe this is a domestic thing, you know. I'm gonna give you an example that, not because I want to talk about my country is beautiful, I love it, and if you have been there, you will probably not disagree with me. But it's not because of that, but because there's a cultural loan going on over there, amazing cultural loan. You have traveled, right? Have you ever had in a coffee shop a Viennese coffee, ever? Or see it on a menu in a coffee shop? No? And some people are grabbing their phones and looking it up, right? Viennese coffee. Well, very famous, okay? Now there's something else going on in Vienna. Not only do we have the Viennese coffee, we have the Viennese coffee shop. And by shop, not that we buy there, we go there. Cafeteria Viennese, okay? Extremely famous. If you go on Google now and write down Viennese coffee shop, you're gonna see probably a lot of images of certain kind of decoration, which is kind of the 1900s or the early 20s, you know, extremely famous. And everywhere I go to a big city, New York or Paris or Rome or wherever, there will be some Viennese coffee shops. They are usually then expensive and nicely decorated, and you know, they are kind of upper class thing. I don't know why. Now, the Viennese coffee shop anywhere in the world you will find them, and the funny thing, in Mexico City there was one that is called Bundy's, but that was more like a restaurant, a Viennese restaurant, not so much a Viennese coffee shop. But the Amadeus is something like that, right? The Amadeus is something like that in here in Querétaro, right? Have you been to the Amadeus? No, you have not been to the Amadeus? Wait a minute, Amadeus. This is a coffee shop in Querétaro. There's one in Juriquilla, one in Jardines de la Hacienda, and there's one in, I think the first one was somewhere about Pol Refugio or something like that, of what I heard. Amadeus is very famous. So that's kind of a Viennese coffee shop thing. And so here's the trick. I'm a Viennese, so I'm from the capital, right? I've lived I was born in Vienna till I left Vienna for Mexico, okay? So I'm a full-blooded Viennese. I went to Viennese coffee shops probably most of my life over there, 2 or 3 times a week. This is something that we have. We couldn't even visualize not going to a coffee shop in Vienna, right? And have a coffee. Now here's the thing. We don't have coffee. We have to import the damn coffee from Brazil or Colombia or Mexico or Costa Rica, I don't know. We grow no coffee. How is it possible that we are so proud of our Viennese coffee shops and of that custom? I know of no Viennese guy who doesn't go to a coffee shop almost every day. How is that possible? And then I researched that, and what we had was, in the history of Austria, Vienna, which was, we talk about the Roman Empire, they were over there. One of the Caesars called Marcus Aurelius, he's resting in Vienna. So a Caesar is the rest of, you know, the body of a Caesar is in Vienna, because Vienna was then called Vindobona. Vindobona, that was Vienna for the Romans. But then somewhere around, and I'm making years up now because I don't remember exactly, for many years I think somewhere in the 1500s, there was a Turkish Sultan, and he came to occupy Vienna. Vienna was the entrance to Europe for them. And they wanted to expand with their Muslim religion and ideas, right? So they went to Vienna and occupied us for months. But Vienna withstood the advance, and there was a siege around Vienna, but they could never enter. Okay, so after a few months they went back to Turkey, which was a good thing, right? So we did not get Muslims. We did not get that. But then in I think it was 1683, they came back, another one. This one, I think, was Karabenemsi or something like this. I don't remember. Another sultan, right? And they wanted to do the same thing, walk through Vienna and expand Islam to Europe. And in that second occasion, there was also a siege around the city, but in the second one, we were about to lose. And Prince Eugene from Savoia came and rescued us. So Prussians did, right? So they knew, because no European country wanted Islam to get in there, right? So they knew that they had Vienna almost finished. So they came to Vienna and helped us out and stopped the Turks. So the Turks went back. So the Turks, for the second occasion, they failed. So they went back. But what happened was that they left a lot of things. They didn't take everything with them, right? So they lost and they went back. And the Austrians, among one of the things, they found weapons. I remember in the Museum of History in Vienna, I always went there for a particular couple of things that I always saw. I loved them. And I was 12, 13, 14, 15. I always went there. I wanted to steal those things because there was no way to get them, right? They were not selling them. There was this rifle that they left, and that was full with precious stones. We had never seen a rifle like that before, a beautiful rifle. And there was this sable, also this Turkish sable with precious stones. And I could stand there for half an hour thinking, how am I going to steal that, right? How am I going to steal? How may I get into the museum? And of course, I never did, right? There was no way. And they left weapons, but guess what else they left? They left coffee. Because one of the things you do know, if you don't know about Viennese coffee, you know about Turkish coffee, right? Café Turco. Everybody has heard about that. You might have had it. You might not even like it. I never liked it. Café Turco, not my thing, right? But they left the coffee there. So what happened? And they do have coffee down there, and from the Middle East and from Africa and so on and so forth. So they left that stuff, and Austrians must have found it. The Viennese must have found that stuff and must have said, well, we might have known about the Turkish coffee and might have said, well, there's the coffee. What are we going to do with it? Let's experiment with it, right? And those started experimenting with it and started using it. They started liking it, and for hundreds of years they must have brought in the coffee from somewhere. Certainly not from Brazil or something, but they must have done it from the Middle East or from North Africa or something. They got used to it. They adapted it over the hundreds of years. And right now, I know of no Viennese who couldn't even visualize a life without coffee, right? Fun enough, we don't even realize, we are not even aware that it's not us. Because nowadays, I know when I'm in Austria, I see the coffee there, I see where it comes from, right? It comes from Brazil and Colombia and so on and so forth. And we have this custom, and we actually integrated that custom into ours. That's a cultural norm. If you can achieve something like this with your product or service, you are definitely done. You're definitely done. I give you an example. Raise your hands, those of you, now this is interesting. Raise your hands, those of you who do not have a pair of blue jeans in your home. Raise your hands. You know, I can ask this question anywhere in the world, and I bet that there will not be one hand up there, not one, which means everybody in the world everybody in the world will use jeans. And they have been around for over 100 years, right? We know they're American. We know they came from the US. We know that miners were using these pants because they were doing a rough job and they needed pants that were durable and lasting, right? So the Levi Strauss guy came up with this particular material and said, it's a blue thing and this is it and it will last you forever, no? And now we have them designer jeans, right? We have designer jeans. And none of us will think, I don't think I have jeans. I mean, you always see me in jeans, right? Funny enough, you always see me in jeans. And I do not consider me 1 gram less Austrian because I'm using something from the US. You don't consider yourself 1 gram less Mexican, right? No, it's part of our life. It's part of our life. That's what we do. We use jeans, okay? And of course, for Levi Strauss, if you think about it as a company, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, of course, it's a good thing, right? Everybody uses this kind of product, no? So there will be, of course, resistance to change. We want to achieve cultural loans for other cultures to adapt our stuff, but there will be resistance to it. So let's see what kind of strategies we have. Look at this image. I don't know. Have you seen this image already? Have you seen this one? I don't think so, right? I'm gonna show it to you again. And I would like you to tell me which country do you think this is? And how long ago how old is this image? If it's last week or yesterday or how long? Okay, ready? Okay, go. Don't look at what's written down there. Don't look what's written down there. Okay, so now you see her, right? What country is that? Does anybody know? No? Any ideas? Come on, guys, wake up. Nobody? Middle East. Thailand, India. Well, it's a Middle East. It's a Middle East thing. Iraq. Not Iran, Iraq. And how long ago do you think this picture was taken? Just a guess. Take a wild guess. Write it down. 15 years ago, says one, 5 years. Okay, one, Michael says 12, Jason says 20 years. 10 years, 20. Okay. Well, this was when this particular fellow was still the ruler before the Iraq war, okay? Before the Iraq war with Saddam Hussein, he was still alive. So he gave his country, in Iraq, he gave them the opportunity to adapt Western cultures. If you look at this girl now, you see one of them is the typical Islamic woman, and this one has the new hair look. She wears jeans, tight actually, high heels, right? And the sunglasses and the T-shirt. This was somewhere around before 2000. So this image is probably 25 years ago. If you think about this now, in Iraq, there was the war then, 2 wars, right? Really 2 wars. And I'm sure they're still open. If you consider the neighbor of Iraq, which is Iran, well, you will realize that those people have not progressed at all, because those people are actually forcing women to dress and not let their hair come out or anything. And we know about the manifestations and the girls that got killed in police stations and so on and so forth, right? So these are 2 countries that are neighbors. And one of them is completely open and the one is completely closed, right? So strange. Same religion. same religion. So strange. Anyways, now, as we can see, this girl, I'm sure she did not feel then she was less Iraqi because she had already adapted that and integrated it. It's a cultural own thing, right? Now, this woman, we don't know if she's alive, so she must be 20 years older or something like that. And I'm sure if she's still alive, she's still wearing jeans, right? She's still wearing jeans, so no big deal. Okay, now, for cultural change that we would like to achieve, let's see what the time is. Do I have time for that? Yes. We would, no, we don't have time for this because it will take me 15, 20 minutes and be out of time. So, because I need to give you an example of that. So, was that interesting? What did you learn, Jason? What did you learn of today's session? Yeah, don't think I don't see you. Yeah, you're doing something different, right? You're not focused on the session at all. Yeah, right. Not focused. So let's see. Diego, what did you learn today? Diego?
You hear me?
Yeah, Diego, what did you learn today?
Well, first of all, it does not matter if a country is their neighbors, their cultures can be different. Like, for example, Korea and North Korea, they're totally different. Like, totally.
Okay, true, totally true.
And that sometimes cultures appropriate things from other cultures and make them their own, and then we don't realize that we're using a custom from another country.
Yeah. Hey, you see my green screen? My virtual thing, my virtual screen got erased or something. Let's use this one. No, none of them works. There's something going on here. Okay. Mexicans, guess what? Or let's put it this way, a lot of cultures drink chocolate, right? Hot chocolate. Guess where that came from? Does anybody know? Yeah, where, Michael? Where did chocolate come from?
From Mexico. The indigenous tribes used it as currency.
The cacao thing, that would be correct. And another thing that you might not know, oh, you're gonna hate me. You all know about the serenata, right? So when you go to with some mariachis, you go to a place and sing to the girl that you're in love with, right? You all have done that. Oh my God, check it out. Oh man, this was where I lived in Curiquilla. I changed the house now. I live in another house now. In Cumbres del Lago. Ahí está su casa. Okay? So I live in a very nice house now. This was nice. I didn't want to leave, but my wife and her kids. Yeah. Anyways. So what did I want to say here? Oh, yeah. And guess where this comes from? Oh, and also the thing of mariachi. Well, that we know is from Mexico, right? That we know is from Mexico, and the serenata is from Mexico. Well, guess who else had done that before? The serenata thing. Guess where this came from? It came from France, and nobody knows that. And the mariachi people then, the musical group that went to the serenata in France, mariage, the matrimonial thing, you know, mariage, and they called them mariage, whatever, and now here comes this thing. But now we know that those things are Mexican, purely Mexican, and you would have never guessed that this came from somewhere else, right? Another thing, I have researched the Viking story now. I started researching it about 2 years ago, and now with the Viking series on TV, on Netflix, I went through the whole history of the Vikings now for the last 3 months or so, 4 months. I've seen probably every video around, every documentaries, right? And I know a lot more about Vikings now that I knew about a year ago. And one of the things that they came up with was the democratic vote, the parliament thing came from the Vikings. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that, and everybody has adapted it, right? And everybody, not everybody, right? A lot of countries have adapted the democratic vote, and this is already 1,000 years old from the Vikings. Is that interesting or what? Highly interesting. Okay, guys, I'm gonna let you go. Remember on Tuesday, guess what we have on Tuesday?
Midterm.
Midterm, okay? So study hard. I'm gonna upload this video, whatever we have done here. Have I recorded that yet? And the material from Tuesday and Thursday today by tomorrow, okay? Also with an announcement of the exam, all right? Okay? All right, guys, please study hard. No laptops, no cell phones, just a piece of paper, and that's what the old traditional ways, right? All right, guys. Okay, take care. Have a nice weekend. See you. Bye-bye.
How long is the exam?
Bye, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. See ya.
How long does it take, the exam?
No, how long is it? How many questions?
Yeah, how many, about 100 questions, and it will take about 3 hours, okay? So, are you happy now?
All right. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank you,
See you.
Professor.
Bye-bye, ciao. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.